Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 136 of Explode Your Expert Biz show, brought to you by gtex.org.uk. I'm your host, Simone Vincenzi, the Expert Strategist, and this is the podcast for experts who want to become the ultimate authority in their niche while making an impact in the world. And today I have the pleasure to interview Rob Wilson on living the innovative lifestyle for fun and fortune. You will absolutely love this interview because we are going to be talking about how to enhance your creativity to maximize your opportunities, your profits, your fun in life. If you are creative or you struggle with creativity, you will absolutely love this episode. Before I'll introduce properly John Wilson and Rob Wilson and talk about what we are going to talk about, then I want to mention the tool of the day. This is something I'm doing every now and then where I find something cool that makes my life or business better or simpler to run, or something I love. And this week the tool is called Payment for Stripe. Literally, it's just called Payment for Stripe. There is the link in the show notes if you just scroll down. And Payment for Stripe is a great app, in particular if you're using Stripe as a payment gateway to collect payments on the road. You can literally put a card number or in the system on your app, which is connected to Stripe, and boom, you got money. Easy peasy, done. And I absolutely love it. Becomes an easy way for you to collect payments anywhere you go without a card reader, just from your phone. And that's why I love it. I use many different payment gateways because I like to differentiate and not putting all my eggs in one basket. I've heard horror stories of accounts like blocked on PayPal with hundreds of thousands of pounds or dollars in there, and I just wanted to make sure that I could differentiate. So one of the payment gateways I use is Stripe. So every now and then I'm using my app when I'm on the road, and I just close a client. Easy peasy, deposit, give me the card details, cash in the bank, and that's what we love. So Payments for Stripe, there is no affiliate link here, is just something I'm using. It's super cool, so click the link and get it. Is a iOS or Android app. So now it's time to talk about Rob Wilson. In particular, today, as we said, is all about creativity. So who is Rob? Rob is an award-winning writer and speaker-humorist. Robert Evan Wilson Jr. works with companies that want to become more competitive and with people who want to think like innovators. Rob is the author of the internationally syndicated column on achievement, innovation, and leadership, The Uncomfort Zone. He's also author of 4 books. And in this episode, we talk about 3 occasions you're likely to be creative, 3 characteristics of innovators, and how to live the innovative lifestyle. You will find the links, a bonus, and all the entire transcript on the interview in the show notes or on our website www.gtex.org.uk/episode 136. And you can also connect with Rob with all his social media details here in the show notes. Now, before we start, a few things to remember. If you haven't downloaded yet our Selling from the Stage checklist, what the heck are you waiting for, really? I mean, if you've been listening for a while to the show, you should already have it, because really, you haven't got it yet? I mean, no one make money from presentation or make more money from presentation? Well, okay, if the answer is yes, then you absolutely want it, and you need to click the link that you will find in the show notes under Ultimate Selling from the Stage checklist. Also, if you want to receive daily support and you might feel a bit lonely and isolated and you want to grow your business faster, grow your network, then join our private Facebook group. Explode Your Expert Biz. Very easy to remember. Same name of the podcast. You can find it on Facebook, and as well, you can find the link in the show notes. Answer the 3 questions that there are at the beginning of the group. Otherwise, you will not be accepted. And then we will select who's going to be part of it. And from there, we will let you in, and then the conversation can start. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. It makes a big difference. We work really hard to release our 3 weekly episodes to bring you as much value as possible. And I would really appreciate if you can subscribe and leave me a review. It means the world to me. And if I like your review as well, I write something nice, I'm going to feature you on the show and ask a couple of questions. How amazing is that, right? If you want to reach out to me with any question or send me the screenshot that you've made the review, send it to simone@gtex.org.uk. It comes straight into my inbox. Now, without further ado, it's time to hear from Rob Wilson. Let's start the music. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Explode Your Expert Biz Show. Today, I'm here with the one and only Robert Evans Wilson Jr. How you doing, Robert?
I am well, Simone, and it's good to be on your show. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm really excited. Today is all about innovation. Today, let's talk about innovation. Innovation in our business, innovation in our life. But before we get started, Rob, can you tell us how did you get involved in this field?
Well, my background is as a writer. I've been writing pretty much all my life. I knew as early as third grade that I wanted to be a writer when I grew up.
Right.
And eventually got into the field, tried to get fiction published early on and couldn't do that, so I went into any other way I could make a living writing. I wrote for newspapers, magazines, and then I got into advertising. And that just paid a lot better than the others. And so there's just a lot of creative work in whether it's creating an advertisement for a company or creating a story. And so it was through that the joy of creativity, and that's kind of how I got into talking about it or speaking about it, is because I want to share with the world how much you get out of becoming more and more creative, opening your mind to more creative thinking, opening up just the opportunities that are out there.
I'm curious to know now if I'm sure that in your career you had to come up with a lot of creative ideas for yourself, for your clients. Can you give me an example of the one that you consider to be the most genius from the ideas that you came up with?
Oh, genius! I'm not sure.
I like the word genius or creative. You choose the one the word you want to associate to it.
Well, I can tell you about something that was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, please.
There's just so many things that I enjoy that's creative. Sometimes it's just, doing something fun in the kitchen and creating, something new from scratch. But I got an idea back in college when I ran into a friend of mine. And this is really going off track here, but okay, so I'll just tell you the story from scratch.
Please.
So I walk out of my classroom, I see my buddy down at the end of the hall, and so I go down to speak to him. When I get there, I see he's working with one of those old pistol grip label makers, with the little vinyl strips. And I said, so Ken, what are you up to? He says, I'm doing some work for the dean. I'm putting the room numbers up on the classrooms in Braille so that the blind students can figure out which room they need to go to. And so I watch him for a minute, and the school I go to is an urban campus in downtown Atlanta, Georgia State University. And at the time, all the buildings were relatively close together. And I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not, but we had a lot of blind students on campus, and I'd gotten to know a couple from my classes. So as I'm watching Ken, well, all I can say is the devil got into me. And I said, Ken, does that label maker just do numbers, or does it do the whole alphabet? And he goes, it does the whole alphabet. I said, great, let's take that over to the Student Center men's room and put some graffiti up in Braille. And so we did. And the next day, we made a point of running into some of our blind friends and saying, hey, Jack, are you keeping up with some of the graffiti they're putting up in the students in her men's room, and they'd get this real annoyed look on their face. I remember one friend, Jimmy, going, "Now, Rob, why are you asking me that when you know I can't see it?" I said, "Well, next time you're in there, just feel above the toilet paper dispenser." And within 48 hours, every blind student on campus had heard about it, and they were after us to put up some more. They said, "This is hilarious. We never get this stuff." Yeah. And so Ken and I were just thinking, well, we really didn't intend to become the PC graffiti artist of GSU, but we decided to go find some more graffiti. And so for inspiration, we hit the bars. And then one night we went into this really old tavern that must have had 50 years worth of graffiti on the bathroom walls. And so we kept finding new ones we wanted to take back to school with us. And so we started writing them down on a piece of paper. And by the end of the night, we had filled up a sheet or two of paper with all this graffiti. And as we looked at all of this really funny stuff, we decided that, well, this was the beer talking. We're 2 or 3 pitchers in right now. And we just decided, hey, let's just keep collecting this stuff until we have enough for a book. Wow. And that was the night the idea was born for our book, which came out 16 years later. We didn't know how long it'd take us to collect enough. It took 15 years to collect enough graffiti for that book, but we kept the idea alive because it was just too much fun.
Wow.
And so we have a book called Off the Wall, the best graffiti off the walls of America, and it's an illustrated collection of bathroom graffiti. It's hilarious.
Oh my God! I need to get it. I need to get a book. I need to get a book. The reason why I asked you because it feels like creativity has been a running theme throughout your life, from the moment you decided to write, the moment you went to advertisement, but also the idea that you had to create this book and to create these graffitis just from seeing this label maker, and I think is a testament of some of the weirdest or sometimes best ideas. They come from moments in life where we never expect. That's my feeling around it. So the question I want to ask you right now is still a curiosity to get to know you a bit better before we move into the content. Was there a moment in your life which was very challenging? Maybe it was a very challenging moment in your life, and or your business, and you had to come up with a creative idea, with something to put you out of that situation. Can you give an example of if you had any moment like that?
Well, probably the most challenging moment was the Great Recession, but I don't know that I had any creative way out of that one other than just hard work. But probably one of the best things that I've done for growing my business, which was creative, is writing articles. And I have an internationally syndicated column that I write. And it's on achievement, kind of self-motivation type of stuff, leadership, motivating others, and a lot on innovation and creative thinking, which is, one of my favorite topics. So I write about that a lot. And so that more than anything has boosted my business. People find me through my articles. They'll read the stories because I'm a storyteller. More than anything else, I consider myself a storyteller. Whether I'm on a stage telling a story, whether I'm creating a story for an advertisement to get someone involved in a product or service, or whether it's an article I'm writing or fiction. I mean, it's all storytelling. And so I'll tell a story to illustrate a point in my articles. People will read them and go, "Oh, I like this," and this guy's a speaker too. Let's get him for our next conference. So that more than anything has been how I've built my speaking business. That and a lot of marketing.
But you gotta get out there.
But that's the most random way people have found me. I don't know if it's random because that was kind of intentional. So I tried to get as many publications to carry my column as possible. And so... I'm curious to,
you mentioned story. And you mentioned that, first of all, you are a storyteller. And I think that there are a lot of people in our industry, as speakers, as experts, and that need the stories, because that's how we create that connection. That's how we get people to care about us and what we do. But then the reality is they kind of suck at telling stories, or they become incredibly boring, or they become just about themselves, or they become with no real point. There is no real substance. So the question I have for you is, what, from your expert opinion, what makes a great story?
What makes a great story? Well, tension. I want to know what's going to happen. It's like, I was watching a movie the other day, and I was like, this movie is boring because there was no plot line. Right. It was just a story about some, teenagers and all these things they would do from day to day to day, but there was no, you weren't concerned about anything. You weren't, it really lacked, some type of tension to keep me interested. Like, how are they going to resolve this problem? How are they going to escape this? Or how are they going to? There was none of that in that movie, so I eventually just turned it off. After an hour, I gave it an hour. I was like,
you gave it a lot of time. If it was me, I was like, really 5 minutes is enough. Yeah.
And maybe it redeemed itself later on, but I couldn't wait. So, a storyteller, whether they're telling a story from the stage or whether they're telling a story in an article, to create interest, there has to be some type of, I guess the best word I keep coming back to is tension. I have to feel some tension. The audience needs to feel some tension as they're hearing it or reading it, that they're on the edge of their seat. What's going to happen? How's he going to resolve this? I want to know. And if you're not telling a story like that, then you're not going to grab them. And that's one of the most important things someone can do in their very opening of a speech. Don't do any warm-up stuff. Don't get, I'm so glad to be here in your town. So good to see all you people. Jump right into your story. I mean, jump right into the tension.
Yeah, it is very powerful. Very, very powerful. Just going in, straight in. Don't even let the audience take, because that's the moment where they have where you have the biggest attention, is when you come in. You are fresh. They're expecting something to happen, and the first few seconds they're the crucial one. So if you waste them by saying, "Oh guys, how you doing today? Woohoo!" then you've already wasted the most precious moment that you have in your speech. So now, from storytelling, let's move to innovation.
Okay.
Can you tell me a bit more about the work that you do around innovation?
Well, mostly I like teaching people how to think more like an innovator, to live what I call the innovator's lifestyle.
Yeah.
And, that's, part of that is understanding what innovation and creative thinking is all about, which really, you boil it down to its essence. It's all about problem solving or satisfying needs. And you've heard that old saying a million times, necessity is the mother of invention. That's the time we're most likely to be creative or innovators, when we're forced into it, when suddenly we're backed up against the wall and we got to fix something with spit and a prayer. Or maybe duct tape and WD-40.
You know what? It made me think about the time where I was business was not working. So I made a very, very stupid decision to quit my job and start my speaking business without having a clue or any contacts or any money, and just hoping that somehow something was going to happen. So that's how wise I was. And I ended up, because I'm a musician, I play the didgeridoo, which is an instrument from Australia. I found myself without money, and I was like, man, I got to figure out some way, because somehow I don't know how to get clients for my business. So I went in one of the main squares of London, and I've heard that that's the only square where you can play music without having a busking license, because I didn't have even the money to play my license for busking.
Wow.
And I was there with this long ass didgeridoo. You can actually see there at the back. It's about 6.5 foot tall. And going around the tube and the subway and just smashing it in people's heads. And and somehow I managed to pay my bills or survive just by playing music on the street. And would I? The question was, that's what made me think about it. Would I've ever done it if I didn't have the necessity to pay my rent? Probably not, because it wasn't my plan to ever even go in the street and busk.
Well, I think what you did is excellent, because if you want to do something, don't wait until you've got all your ducks in a row. If you wait until you've written your business plan and you've gotten all the equipment and you'll never get started.
Sure.
I mean, some people get caught up in the perfectionism of trying to get a business going, and in my opinion, just get started, and you can tweak it later. You can refine it as you go along, but getting it going. Back in my early days as a freelance advertising copywriter, I would do some freelance work through a lot of ad agencies, and this is back in the day before email. I would have to go by and actually drop off copy, or drop off a floppy disk, and I would run into other writers that I would know at some of these agencies, and they go, "Oh, Rob, I wish that I could be a freelancer too. If I could just get that first client, I could quit this job and I could freelance as well. I'd like to have the freedom of freelancing." And I said, "You're never going to find it until you quit the job. When you quit the job, you'll be motivated by that rent check you got to pay, or that mortgage payment. You'll get out there. You'll knock on doors until you find that writer." And it's probably same with any business, in my opinion. Get out there and start it. I mean, experts will tell you, "Oh, you want to have 6 months worth of living money before you start this, so that you're not starving." But there's something about putting your intention to do something out there in the world that makes that stuff come to you. It's just remarkable. When you you let the world know what you want to do and what you want to be, opportunities just open up almost like magic. And it's just because that's what you want, and it seems to come to you when you do that.
I want to know about creativity and innovation now, because there are generally, well, as you said, we become the more creative, the more innovative when we are with the back against the wall, where we have to create something. Now, I found that, however, sometimes there are some people that when something like this happen, where their business is falling apart, or they need to come up with a new solution, they have a problem with a client, instead of activating this creativity, they shut themselves down. And instead of going into this solution focus mode, because that's the moment where you need the solution, they stop operating. So do you have any advice or any model or any system that you use to encourage and invite this creative thinking, in particular where is needed?
Well, pretty much what people need to do is to expose themselves to as many new experiences as they can. The more stimuli we're exposed to, the more information we're exposed to, the more different opinions we're exposed to, literally lay new neural pathways down in our brain. It opens up new electrical connections between the brain cells. And as we do that, that gives us more resources, more data, more information from which to draw on, and from which to make more connections. Because if you think about what an idea is, it's really just two or more existing concepts that have been melded or synthesized into something new. And you can't do that unless you've got a lot of stuff coming in. And it also, I think it just getting out there and doing things and experiencing more things not only creates those new electrical connections, but experiencing new things also triggers our dopamine receptors in our brain, which make us feel good. And when we feel good, we're more likely to get out there and do more and make those connections with people that we need to make with that can help boost our career. career. So sometimes you just have to get out there, expose yourself to new experiences, new people, new meetings, go networking, do something that will help trigger a lot of that. As I was saying before, I think there's three characteristics to an innovative thinker, and we can talk about that later, but that's part of it. That's the main one of those three, is exposing yourself to a lot of new things.
So let's talk about the other two, because now I want to know them. So one is exposing yourself, and it feels like what were you saying is, instead of closing and shutting yourself down, or banging your head against the wall, waiting for the wall to move, without realizing that actually your head is going to crash first, then is about exploring and even stop thinking about that problem so much, but just have it in the back of your mind, go out there and allow that inspiration to come. That's the moment where you actually should do something different. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to remember this for my next business crisis next time is going to come, because definitely I don't do enough of this. So what are the other two elements of the innovator lifestyle?
Well, there's three aspects, and the first one, it's technique. The second is mindset. And then the third is the lifestyle. The lifestyle is what we've already talked about, exposing yourself to as many new things as possible. Now, the techniques, there are a lot of different techniques in stimulating creative thinking. And they pretty much all boil down to one thing. I mean, there's several books out there that will give you dozens and dozens of ways to do this, but it all boils down to one simple thing, and that's changing your perspective, looking at things in a new way. There was a guy, Albert Georgi, who discovered vitamin C. He once said, "Discovery consists in looking at the same things as everyone else, but thinking something different." And then I love that movie with Robin Williams, The Dead Poets Society.
Oh,
if you've seen that.
Amazing.
Remember, one day he walks into the classroom and climbs up onto his desk. And then he asks his students, "Why do I stand upon my desk?" Well, they don't have any idea. So he goes ahead and tells them, he goes, "I stand upon my desk to remind myself that we must constantly look at things in different ways." And that's your key right there. That's the key to creative thinking. That's the key, is to get yourself to see things from a different perspective. And when you can do that, then that really stimulates creative thinking. And so like I said, there's a lot of techniques you can use to do that. Some are simple, some are easy. You have to find ones that work for you, for your type of temperament, your type of personality. For me, I use some writing techniques. What I'll do is if I have a problem I'm trying to solve, I will sit down and I will start writing about it in great detail. I will write like a long-term paper, 10, 20 pages, trying to write everything I know about the issue. And then what happens, I keep a separate sheet of paper, because as I'm writing, little fragments of ideas will start firing in my brain. And I'll write that down, because if you don't, you'll forget it. You'll get these little idea fragments that are kind of like, let me write that down. And then after a while, you'll realize that little separate sheet of paper is where that idea will be born. And so for me, that's one of my favorites. And then there's several others I could mention if you want to hear, but okay, here's another real simple way.
Yeah, one more.
Okay,
so
this is a real simple way.
Yeah.
Ask yourself this question: what would I do if the opposite were true? So what is your problem? Okay, business is down. I'm really suffering right now. I can't seem to find any clients. Well, what would you be doing if your business was overwhelming and you had so many clients you didn't know what to do? You had the opposite problem. And then that will get you thinking in a different direction. You see, that reverses you immediately by saying, what would I do if the opposite were true?
I never heard about this before. I'm gonna use it. I'm definitely going to use it. I can see it. I can see how well that works, because suddenly it gets you to think about, it gets your mind to think about in the direction where actually you want to go. So it sets that on fire.
Well, there's an advertising story that kind of makes a good example of that. Marlboro cigarettes were for over 100 years were a cigarette brand targeting women smokers. Mm-hmm. And then the company had so many cigarette brands, they were saying, well, we need to cut some brands. We got too many things going on. Let's get rid of this Marlboro. It's not doing anything. It's really, not doing much. It's one guy says, we can't do that. One of the marketers goes, we can't do that. We've had this brand for over 100 years. Let's just change the way we market it. Instead of marketing it to women, let's market it to blue collar workers, really He-Man kind of guys. Let's give it a cowboy theme. And they did. And it became the #1 best-selling cigarette in the history of cigarettes. So they went from being a refined ladies' cigarette to being a tough guy cigarette, and then the ladies smoked them too. So they, it was just by doing a 180-degree turn. They did an opposite. They did the exact opposite of what they had been doing, and it worked. So just kind of a story along those lines that I always thought was interesting.
Love this. Can you remind us of the 3 stages of the innovation process? So you said the first one is... Okay. The three characteristics. The 3 characteristics. The 3 characteristics of innovators are Wait, the 3. Okay, I'm getting confused. Okay, the 3 parts of being an innovator are technique, mindset, and then the lifestyle. The lifestyle. I just want to make sure.
What we haven't talked about is the mindset.
Right.
Now, the creative thinkers, innovators believe, this is the #1 part of it, they believe that they're creative. They believe that when they set out to solve a problem or invent something, that they're going to be successful. And this makes people around them crazy, because they see them, failing and failing and failing, and they're going, why do you keep wasting your time and your money and your effort, and why do you keep doing this? It's because they have this idea, that this belief that it's going to work. And that's what drives these people. And here's the other parts of that. These are really the 3 characteristics of innovators. Is one, they have this strong, powerful belief that they can do what they're going to do, which enables them to have this second characteristic. They are willing to take risks that most people wouldn't. And a risk, in order for something to be a risk, means you have to be able to lose something. That might be as simple as losing face, hurting your reputation. It could be losing time. It could be losing money. So that's a huge part of being an innovator, is that you're willing to break the rules. You're willing to go off in an untraditional way. You question authority. You ask constantly, why do we have to do things this way? Why can't we do it that way? And so this is part of that mindset. And so they're willing to take risks. They're willing to break the rules. And the reason they're willing to do this goes back to the first characteristic. It's because they believe they're going to succeed. They just have this powerful belief it's going to work. It's going to work out. Everything's going to be fine. Okay, I've lost $1 million. Thomas Edison said, I have not failed 1,000 times. I have simply found 1,000 ways that don't work. So that's the third characteristic, is this belief and this willingness to take risk, and then so that's I think that's, let's see, belief, the belief and the willingness to take risk.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, make sure you take notes, because that's what it takes. That's what it takes. And we all, as experts in our field, we all need to be able to reinvent ourselves. We all need to be able to get out there in a new light, because you find, I'm sure you see it everywhere, there are people that are just copycats, and they are doing what everyone else is doing. And of course, if you are doing what everyone else is doing in your business, then it's very unlikely you're going to stand out, and then people are going to buy from the innovators, from the people that they can see there this spark and this genius and this and they are different in particular. That's difference is the key word here. So now I have a question for you, because we are starting the session on the last part of the interview, which is about lifting the veil. That's where I'm going to ask you something that you do or that you did in your business, or a tool that you're using. Can be a system, a process, whatever you choose, that is working incredibly well for you. They said, well, if I can give this piece to other people, that will make a hell of a lot of difference in their business too. What is that thing?
I would suggest that they establish their expertise by writing about it. Because you can always find a place to publish something you've written, even if you have just your own blog. To me, that is one of the best ways of establishing expertise, and that's what people are looking for. They want to know what you're good at, and that's how you prove it. And nothing has worked better for me than that. And so, I mentioned that earlier, but that's really the best advice I can give anyone. Of course, I am a writer. That's natural for me. I know it's not as easy for other people. But the thing is, sit down and write every day. And the more you write, the better you'll get at it. And don't worry about, again, get started with it. Don't worry about whether it's perfect. Use a spell checker, please. But
Grammarly is my best friend.
But other than that, start telling your stories and about what you know best. Everybody is good at something, and everybody is good at something to the degree that somebody wants to know how to do that. And a lot of times we just need to explore what that is. What are you passionate about? That's what you can most easily write about. What really gets you going? What fires you up? What gets you angry or happy? Whatever, what triggers your emotions more than anything else, and that's what you should be writing about. That's maybe what you can help people with the most.
How do you select, what's your process for, or how do you select the topics for writing? Because, you need always to come up with new ideas, new content. How do you select what to write about?
Well, that's a real challenge for me, because the column that I write each one so that it's timeless. So I try not, or I do not, tie it to any current events. And so that makes it a little difficult sometimes to come up with an idea. If you want to write about current events, things that are going on, that I could come up with a topic every single day. But when I want to come up with a topic that's going to last for years, because I have publishers just starting out with my column that I started writing 11 years ago. And so the ones I wrote 11 years ago are just as fresh today as they were when I first wrote them. And so they're still good copy for people who want to run them. So I still have people running those, and that's what makes that a challenge, is coming up with the new topics. But basically, a lot of times what happens, what triggers the topic for that particular month, because I only write it once a month, is something that's going on with me personally. And if it's a challenge I'm dealing with, then I'll go, well, what's a story I can tell that illustrates what I'm going through and can help me make this point? And so that's kind of what I do. Sometimes I'm looking internally. And so...
Yeah, and I think that this is a great way to come up with content in particular, because there is one person that we know, or an experience that we know, is ourselves. Know what we are thinking, what we are going through. So, and also is a great way to establish a relationship with their audience, because then the audience, finally, people can connect with you, can connect with the writer, not just the content or beautifully is written. Because, for example, I've studied copywriting. My copy is not bad, but if I have to choose between writing, doing a video, doing a show, all day long I would talk instead of write. I mean, just for me, going there and write is not something that come natural. I wrote 4 books, and it was the 4 most painful experiences of my life, because I had just to force myself to get down and write. But then I found one thing, that the bad part, the worst part is the beginning. The worst part is the beginning. And then when I'm in it, I'm actually starting enjoying it, and words start flowing. But it takes a good 5 to 10 minutes, or even sometimes 15 minutes, before I start enjoying the process. The first 15 minutes are kind of the warm-up.
I think that's true for everyone. I mean, that's true for me. I sit down and will just sometimes just write a bunch of nonsense. It almost seems like I'll have a vague idea. But here's a technique that will help people. If you're writing and you get some momentum going to writing, and especially if it's a longer piece like a book, what I recommend people do is don't stop each day at a point where you've completed something. Stop mid-paragraph, mid-sentence, because then you sit down the next day, you already know how to finish that sentence because it was already in your head from the day before, and that literally jump-starts you into writing. You sit down and go, oh, yeah, that's what I want. And you get that last paragraph finished that you could have finished the day before, but by finishing it the next day, it literally jump-starts you in to the next page or the next paragraph after that.
I love this.
It's a wonderful technique.
I'm writing now the 5th book, and that's I'm going to test it out. I'm going to test this out tomorrow morning. I'm really excited because generally, actually, I force myself to finish the chapter. I'm like, okay, I got this chapter to write. Let me finish the chapter, and the day after, I'll start with a new chapter or with a new sub-chapter. That's food for thought. I'll definitely give it a go. I love experimenting. I love experimenting with new things, and definitely you are more of an expert on the subject than I am. So hey, listen to people that know what they're doing. Now, Rob, it's been a great interview. Absolutely love it. Loved your energy. Incredibly entertaining and valuable every single minute, because every person that now is having challenges, or they need to think more creatively, or they need to go and think outside the box, I feel that for what you share from this interview, now they are equipped to do that, which is the most important thing. So for people that want to go deeper into your content, they want to get to know you better, how can they reach out to you? What do you have for them?
Well, the best way to reach me probably is through my website. And it's jumpstartyourmeeting.com. So 4 words run together, jumpstartyourmeeting.com, or find me by looking up Robert Evans Wilson Jr. That's the only way you're going to find me. If you look for Rob Wilson or Robert Wilson, you will find zillions. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. So that's what I tell people. Look me up by my full name, but everything about, pretty much all the links to everything that I do are on my website. You can find I write a blog for Psychology Today on a lot of the things we've talked about today, and my internationally syndicated column is called The Uncomfort Zone. So if anyone's interested in who has a publication, like to run some good copy, contact me about that as well.
Fantastic, brilliant. So
I need to speak too. Yeah. Hire me for your next conference. That would be great.
So we are going to put all the links here in the show notes or in our blog post that we are going to write about this interview. Make sure that you check the links, get in touch with Rob, because you already heard and seen from him what he can do. And definitely, if you're thinking about a great speaker for your next event, then get in touch. I mean, you've already seen his style, and definitely is going to blow your audience away. I can vouch for that. Rob, thank you very much for being on the show, and I wish you a fantastic day.
Well, thank you, Simone. It has been a lot of fun.
I appreciate it. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening. Thank you for watching. Make sure that you subscribe right now to our show. Click the juicy button, which I know is calling you right now. Click subscribe. And also leave us a review. Let us know what did you enjoy the most about this interview. Leave us a review, and then I'm going to pick the best reviews, the best comments, and I'm going to feature you on the show. I'm going to make sure that I'll give you a shout out. Now, before we leave, remember one thing, that together we grow exponentially. Bye for now.